policy issue. We will have question and answers during the program after each speaker, and we will discuss the next steps that the league will be taking and those of you may take on as advocacy and education. Those on Zoom will place their comments in the chat box, please. And those in the room, we have index cards for you to include your questions, and Nancy will be collecting the questions. I was also asked to tell you that if you are talking, your Bluetooth may be picking up information and putting it on here. So you might want to take your Bluetooth off of your cell phones or whatever is happening. Before our speakers, I would like to introduce the league board and have them talk about some of our work. You met. You can't hear me? It is on. Can you hear me? It better? Better. Sorry. Okay, well, anyone who didn't hear what I said, I will repeat it for you after the meeting if you wish. So before we introduce the speakers and I turn the program over to Betsy to do that, I would like the board to discuss some of our work and to introduce themselves to you. So walking in the door is Amy Wolf, who you probably met at the front and at the registration table. She is our Director of Membership. Those of you who are not members, please see Amy to join the league. And yeah, so Amy is saying, and anyone who would like to work on that, also talk to her. At the front table, we have Jacqueline McMiller, who is our Director for Social Policy and has been very involved in a number of issues, including housing, which do you want to speak about some of those issues, Jacqueline? Do you have the mic, the other mic, Nancy? Okay.
If you can't hear me, thank you so much for coming. I am the director. My name is Jacqueline McMiller. I'm the Director of Social Policy here with the League of Women Voters, and much of that includes from everything from juvenile justice to housing. So any of these topics that you may be interested in, we need the help. We need the voices to come out and speak for those who have no voices, and to help those who are in need, and all of it, and especially with something like this with our education. Thank you so much for coming out again, because our children are our future. So we need your voice to speak up for the children and for all those children that are unborn. So thank you again, Director of Social Policy, and we look forward to seeing you guys all in the future and joining with the League of Women Voters.
Thank you. I'm Eileen Conroy, and I'm First Vice President. I lead public relations and communications, and it's been a great experience because I've learned things as a advanced of MailChimp, and I manage the website and Facebook. So we're always interested. If you want to learn things, you can work with me. Thank you.
The next person is actually, I want to, Kathy Mayo, go ahead and give it to Kathy right next to you, because I would like Kathy to say a few words about the reproductive health petitions, if you don't mind, by surprise. Thank you.
Hey, great. We are in the final stretch of getting all the signatures. And it turns out that in their infinite wisdom, our state has said that you have to have a certain number of signatures from certain congressional districts based on, percentage of them based on how they voted in the last election. Anyway, our District 17, which is mainly Lehigh, but also parts of North Fort Myers and parts of downtown on the river, on this side of the river, are in District 17. And that also goes into Charlotte and Sarasota County. we are short about, for Lee County, about 3,000 votes, about votes, 3,000 petitions. So that's amazing because we're doing the best of all of the identified counties right now. So we're putting on a big push, and a lot of different groups are taking on some of this. Lee County Now is out today, right now in Lehigh, at the library, and I think at the post office and other places. But I know that we're going to get this done. It's got to be finished by the end of December. But if you live in this district, which is 19, we're trying to get those in by December 15th. So far, the supervisors of elections have validated 626,000 petitions, and we need almost 900,000. Now, this is the whole state. So there's areas all over the state that they're really concentrating on, and this District 17 is one of them. They have changed some of the regulations. Now the supervisors of elections have 30 days to validate all the petitions that we turn in, which is good because they've been having 60 days, and there's a whole, there's many hundreds of thousands that are in the pipeline now. And so we're just guessing at what the, how many of them are valid or invalid. And the state is going to be updating this weekly, which is new for us. So we're encouraging people to grab a partner, grab some petitions, head out to a public library, a DMV location, tax collector's office, a park, a beach, wherever lots of people gather. But particularly if you could help in the Lehigh area or North Fort Myers, that would be great. And Judy Greenberger. That is. And there's even shade. You just go in and say, I'm here to do some petitioning, and they'll have you sign in. Great. Thank you, Judy.
So-
And Judy Greenberger is heading this up for the league, and she'll be, you could coordinate through her and through Judy. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy, for jumping in. And Judy was not able to be here today.
Okay. Yeah. What's
And
next?
we got 2 mics on, I think.
Who needs this?
So anyone, Judy Alves just volunteered, and anyone else who wants to volunteer, we can coordinate with, let me know or let Kathy or Judy know, and we can make sure that it happens. I'm going to skip over Betsy because she's going to introduce herself and the speakers in a few minutes. To Betsy's left is Stacia Arcarice, who's our secretary. And Jan Lonsdale is at the next table, National Popular Vote. And you will be hearing from her next month. Thank you, Jan. Nancy Leverance, who is our event coordinator. I'm trying to see who else is here. Anna Callwood, who you probably met at the registration table, is our treasurer. You want to wave, Anna? Thank you. And Dana Clark, who is health. Adrian Kaltman is climate change, and Claire Ann Graham, environment. They, I believe, are on the Zoom call today. Did I miss anyone in the room? Okay, so we have a lot of people working on a lot of different issues. And for those of you who are members, please join with us. For those of you who are not members, we'd like you to join with us as well, either in our public policy things or to join us and help within the league. So with that, I would like to introduce Betsy Vaughn, who is our Director for Education.
Thank you, Sandy. And again, good morning to all of you. when I last night, when I was gathering my thoughts, so I wouldn't be speaking for 3 hours because this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. I put down some things that I thought were particularly important. One thing that we have to remember is that our public schools are under attack. And the Florida Constitution provides for a uniform, efficient, safe, secure, and high-quality school system as the paramount duty of the state. And the League of Women Voters, of course, supports that. And we have made not just this chapter, but the state has made education as a legislative priority. Now, as the Director of Education for League of Women Voters, Lee, I participate twice a month in a Zoom call with directors from all over the state. And it's the Florida Education Action Team from the League of Women Voters. And our last meeting, we went through proposed legislation, and there are dozens. There are dozens. There are the train bills, which, if you don't know, are the bills that just kind of throw macaroni or spaghetti at the wall, and there is so much to go through. So we have been working on that and talking. I'm so impressed with that group because there's so many people on the group that have so much background in education. We've talked about the vouchers. We've talked about the book banning. We've talked about teacher credentialing. There's a proposal to make it so much easier to become a teacher and give teachers or people that have gone into the classroom to teach 5 years instead of 3 to get their certification. It's lowering in the proposal, it's lowering from 3.0 GPA to 2.5 GPA. There's so many things. Again, I'm not the main speaker here today, but that's another thing we're watching. One that's really disturbing, and it should be disturbing to everyone, is, and this is a national trend, believe it or not, relaxing child labor laws. Proposition eliminating all guidelines on hours, that employers can schedule youth between the ages of 16 and 17, even allowing employers to schedule teens to work unlimited hours per day or per week, including overnight shifts on school days. Can you imagine? That's just horrendous. And I know all of you, like me, studied history and know about turn of into the 20th century and the horrendous conditions that children were working in. There are even parts of the proposal that talk about younger children, and I'm calling these 16 and 17-year-olds their children, to work in construction or roofing, dangerous occupations. And I know you've read so much about that. But we're here today to talk about early childhood education in particular. I call them the big kids, the high school kids, for 38 years. And it wasn't until I ran for school board the first time, the time I lost in 2016. So it actually goes back to 2015, when I toured several early learning centers, including the Lee County Early Learning Center. And I was also at that time a member of the Pennies for Community Progress. Maybe some of you were in that. And between those two things, I learned so much. And so one of the legislative priorities that we have within that umbrella of education is creating higher standards for early childhood education staff and programs. And there is proposed legislation having to do with the number of hours for the children. I'm going to end with, before I introduce our first speaker, that Florida law requires statewide kindergarten readiness screening to be administered within the first 30 days of kindergarten. And I'm going to let the ladies who speak give maybe more recent statistics on this, but I went on the DOE website and learned that in fall 2022, Lee County had just 46% of their kindergartners who tested kindergarten ready, and the Florida average was 49%. And there were a lot of counties that were in the 30s in terms of children going to kindergarten in their public schools ready to learn. So some people would say, well, hey, they have 12 years and, you know, well, it's extremely important because by the time the children are 3 to 4 years of age, their vocabulary, attention, and general knowledge are predictors of third grade reading comprehension. And third grade reading comprehension and ability is one of the best predictors of high school graduation. So, and actually from birth, our children need a lot of support. Okay, so I'm gonna let the professionals come up here. Our first speaker is going to be Dr. Melanie Stefanowicz, and she is the CEO of the Early Learning Coalition of Southwest Florida. She earned a bachelor's degree from Goucher College, and she has 2 master's degrees, one in the art of teaching from the College of Notre Dame of Maryland, and another in educational leadership from Florida State University. She also has attained a doctorate in educational leadership from the American College of Education. Dr. Stefanowicz's roots in education began in the classroom. And, you know, I look at administrators, and whether within the public school system or in positions like Melanie's position, where did they start? In the classroom. Before starting her tenure at the Early Learning Coalition, Dr. Stefanowicz served as an associate superintendent of career and technical education for Orange County Public Schools, as an executive director of secondary and post-secondary education for the school district of Osceola County, and director of career and adult education in the Monroe County School District. Through her strategic leadership, Dr. Stefanowicz has played a pivotal role in shaping the workforce education landscape by preparing students for real-world challenges. And again, that begins with little kids. I had big kids that I taught that didn't know about please and thank you. As the CEO of the Early Learning Coalition of Southwest Florida, she champions early learning initiatives, leveraging her extensive background to shape the future of education in the region. While she is speaking, if a question pops into your mind, I believe Nancy has gone around and there are small index cards. Just jot down your question and we will have Dr. Stefanowicz answer the questions, as many as she can. And if we run out of time, remember, we have people online and we have ways to follow up and email answers on these. So without further ado, Dr. Stefanowicz.
Well
Thank-
done on the name.
What?
Well done on pronouncing the name.
Hey, all those years of teaching, what wound up to be the problem more were the first names. A lot of creative first names, and is it Alicia or Alicia? And boy, they got real mad if I forgot. Thank you.
Give me one moment while I set up my slide deck. Just for clarification, I am sharing the screen as well. All right. Bear with me.
Can we hear?
That might be better for me. Which one is yours? This one? Yeah, sure. Yeah, perfect. All right, we'll start out with this first, just because I see we've got a camera set up. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I appreciate it. You went into some of what I was going to share about myself, so thank you for covering it for me. And thank you for having me here today to share the great work that's happening through the Early Learning Coalition of Southwest Florida. Just a little bit more so you understand kind of my perspective today. I've been in my role for 8 months. I moved to Fort Myers from Central Florida at the beginning of April. Okay, we'll see. How about that? I think it's because I'm so tall. Is that? I've exceeded the range on the microphone. It's the microphone and the camera that we're trying to manage here. It's important to note that in the work that I'm going to try to, Cupid, when you get up here, you got to bend down a little bit. Okay. That in my work in career and adult education, that I often served the parents of the children I'm now serving. And so, yeah, this might be better for me. And so it's important that I've kind of gone to the other side of that spectrum, if you will. And what interested me about moving from workforce, which is a hot topic in Tallahassee as well, is that, just a quick story, is I went to so many workforce meetings where people would talk to me about, can't you teach people the soft skills? People need soft skills. They need to know how to shake a hand. They need to be on time. They need to think critically. They need to collaborate. All that's learned by the time a kid is 5. So by the time you get to be my age, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be on time if I don't need to be. I know when I need to be on time, and I know when I can be 5 minutes late. And I know that sounds terrible, but we all know that's true, right? You're stuck in traffic. You know, if you've got a little cushion, it's okay if you're a few minutes late. But all of that is learned by the time a child is 5. So I want to talk a little bit about the role of the early learning coalitions. I'm not sure very often if people know what we do. So can I get a show of hands if you feel like you've got a deep grasp of what the Early Learning Coalition of Southwest Florida does? I'm going to put mine halfway up. I've only been here 8 months. Excellent. Well, Anna, yes, Anna works with me in my office, so I hope so, or I'm in big trouble, right? So we have a variety of roles. We have a child care resource and referral hotline. It functions a lot like 211. People call our office. They may have questions about child care, but even beyond child care, affordability, housing, where can they go to get help with their electric bill? My staff, who are certified in CCR&R, we call it Child Care Resource and Referral, have a vast knowledge base of the resources in Southwest Florida, because I serve more than Lee. I serve Glades, Hendry, Collier, and Lee, that they can answer people's questions about just about anything. If they have to research something, they've only got 48 hours to get back to the person. And that's all documented by the Division of Early Learning. The other work that is very important to us is the subsidized child care assistance that we provide. So we help people find affordable child care, and we subsidize it as a flow-through agency for the state and federal funding. So we have a school readiness program that serves children from birth to age 12, so school-age children as well, with a strong focus on birth through age 5. These are what you would traditionally call your daycare, but I'd like to move away from calling it that, because these are early childhood education centers. These are private providers or public school district providers who provide care from the time, parents may choose at birth, 6 months, 1 year, all the way until they start school. They provide very vibrant and enriching learning experiences. And if you would like, to visit centers with me, I've popped my cards over there. Grab one and connect with me and I'll take you out around so you can see some of what's going on today in the modern early childhood learning spaces. The other thing we provide are the vouchers for voluntary pre-K. Voluntary pre-K in Florida is free for every family, regardless of income. School readiness has an eligibility threshold. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that threshold later on in my presentation, but parents have to qualify for it. They can't have above a certain income. The other thing, in order to achieve those goals, is we do a lot of community outreach. We get out into the community to try to find the people who need our services and support and educate them on what we do and help them get the services that they may need. In addition to that, because wait, there's more, we are also responsible for program quality and program monitoring. So as you think about quality programming as one of your legislative advocacy efforts, that is something my office is responsible for. We contract with about 360 providers throughout the region. In Lee County, it's about 185 providers. Now, I want to mention to you that when I say term contracted provider, that's very important because when we have program quality and program monitoring, we are only obligated by law to monitor and assess programs for quality for those programs that contract with us. The programs that choose not to contract with us are not monitored by us. They're monitored by DCF in a very different way. So where we go out and do class assessments for quality teaching, we're looking for high quality interactions between children and teachers. That may look very differently for providers that don't contract with us. So as you're thinking about your efforts, think about those two pools. We are also responsible for ensuring child screening and assessment. Beyond the VPK readiness one, we also within 30 days have to that every child in school readiness is assessed for any potential developmental delays, emotional needs, social emotional needs, so that we can start to work with the school district to get them services as quickly as possible. And then in the last few years, we have been the flow-through agency for ARPA funds and ARPA stabilization funds. And many of our providers are still in operation today because those stabilization funds help them stay open. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the state of the industry in a little bit, but it's important to know that we have been that flow-through agency for millions and millions. Probably around $67 million went out to providers locally. It's a lot of money. I serve 360 providers. Think about that. So you already heard a little bit about kindergarten readiness. I want to talk, since you got that information already, I'm going to take it down a little different path. So 46.1% of Lee County children were assessed as ready for kindergarten. Now let's talk about that. In 2020, 2021, the legislature passed a law on assessing programs. It was a 5-year plan to implement the class assessment. So we are in year 4 of that plan. And by July 1, we have to have fully implemented that law. What does that mean? It means every year since that law was adopted, the metrics on the readiness have changed a little bit. So you're comparing apples to bananas, to oranges, to lemons, until we can get to July 2024. Right now, the DEL is in the process of analyzing what a true readiness score based on this test is. It's the Fast Start Early Literacy Test. They are just now, this is year 4 of the implementation, I think, and they're just hiring a psychometrician. So they have to go through this whole process to calibrate the test to see what exactly is a normed readiness level using this tool. By July 1, that should be adopted by the state board. So as we think about, kindergarten readiness, we need to be mindful that the metric's been changing over time because the law changed and became more, I don't want to say stringent, but there's a stronger bite to it, if you will. It means more now. I'm going to talk a little bit more too. When we think about readiness and 46.1%, we also have to keep in mind how many children actually attended a VPK program. VPK programs can only be offered by contracted providers. So if you have a provider that isn't contracted with the coalition and they're using the term VPK, it is not sanctioned by the state and I can't pay for it. So how many children are actually attending? How many children come to us for vouchers and actually don't show up at a program? How many start a program and for whatever reason don't finish? And how many are we not capturing at all? And that's the last two are the ones I'm most concerned about. The other thing to keep in mind about VPK programs It's a 580-hour program, which is a part-time program over 1 year. And those of us who've taught, that's not a lot of time. And if it's a summer program, it's only 300 hours. So there is pending legislation currently to increase the hours offered through VPK to a full time. Now, the other consideration in VPK readiness is if you have a child that does VPK, what are they doing the other part of the day? Are they enrolled in a school readiness program? Are they in another early childhood education program? Or are they going home? What is that other learning experience like? Because it doesn't just happen when a child is 4, right? We've already said from birth to 5, the learning experience that a child has shapes the rest of their life. As a former 9th grade teacher who taught, I only taught ESE students, those with severe learning disabilities or those who had behavior disorders. If they didn't go to kindergarten, they did not pass their 3rd grade reading. And likely they got to me unable to read at all. And I was charged with getting them to graduation with a diploma, not a certificate of completion. So whatever their 9th grade looks like, their first semester is a mirror of everything that came before and a reflection of what the first semester of their senior year will look like. And that's a fact. So we know that all of these, the 90% of a child's brain is developed by 5. We also know that before kindergarten, that play-based, discovery-based pedagogy is so important. We don't necessarily want them sitting in a chair at a table all day long. We want them to play and explore and play with others and collaborate and learn to communicate and have very high quality interactions with their teachers. We also know that there's a 23% increase in growth rate. Children learn 23% more when they attend quality contracted school readiness and VPK programs. The state of Florida did a study of that over time and recently released those results. The key is those teacher-child interactions. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the industry because I don't know if we're aware that the childcare industry is in crisis. Not just here locally, it is a nationwide crisis. We have some different issues here locally. And I kind of want to walk you through them because when you think about quality of care and quality of learning, we have some concerns about affordable access and whether access is really equitable. So let me walk you through this. I talked to you that the children enrolled in school readiness, their families have to meet an eligibility threshold. That is 150% of the federal poverty level. This gives you an indication of what my staff uses to determine whether a family is eligible for services or not. And I'll give you one easy nutshell example. A family of 4, 2 parents, 2 children in Lee County. Parents earning minimum wage do not qualify for my services. If they make $1 over, 50 cents over, they do not qualify for our services. And it is heartbreaking. And so I'll share with you something I did not share with you. Previously, we serve about 4,800 school readiness children and over 6,000 VPK. Previously, in previous years, we served between 5,500 and 6,000 school readiness children. There are a variety of reasons our enrollment has gone down. One, I need to be out there messaging more. I need to be getting into the communities to make sure I'm reaching the people who are eligible for our services. That's one thing. The other thing that I have to advocate strongly for is an increase in that eligibility threshold. And so I'm asking you today to take this on as part of your charge. There are 2 bills, a House bill and a Senate bill, that are companion bills currently before the Senate and the House that propose to raise that income threshold to 250%. It's not enough, but I will take it. I will take it and I will run with it. The other thing I have in Lee County that's very helpful to us right now is the county commissioners have given me $500,000 in what they call school readiness match funding. They are allowing me to amend my contract with them to increase the threshold of children that I can support, which is allowable by law, to 200%. So in Lee County, we have started to find those parents who didn't qualify, who are below 200% of that threshold so that we can help them get services. But this, if you want to have quality of care, we have to have affordable access. But that raises another problem. Provider rates. Our provider rates have been frozen
since 2020, 2021, when the legislator said, hey, childcare providers can't raise their rates right now. We have different rates all over the state. There's no continuity. We need a cost of care study done. So they froze providers' rates right around the pandemic. Now, this is an industry in crisis. It was in crisis before the pandemic. And locally, you think you had a hurricane before the pandemic, you had the pandemic, and you had another hurricane. Devastating, right? I'm surprised we still have 360 contracted providers. We lost many as a result of the pandemic when people were working from home. They had to lay off teachers. They couldn't, even with stabilization dollars, they couldn't stay open. And all this is occurring, and the legislature freezes their ability to change their rates. And honestly, contractor providers' rates are set by the Early Learning Coalition. So they are not out there willy-nilly saying, I'm going to charge $75 a week. They have to be set in accordance with guidelines we get from the state. But they've been frozen. And so what does that mean? So the daily market rates from 2019 and 2020 to 2021, 2022, this is just market rate. This is non-contracted providers market rate, $66 a week. I only pay up to, that's for an infant. I only pay up to $57.05. That's a negative $8.95 for providers. They're paying their teachers between $12 and $15 an hour on average. Now, some of the bigger providers, they use some of their stabilization money to increase the pay to $17 or $18 an hour. But I'll be frank with you, they're struggling right now. That money is gone. Their rates are frozen. And they're trying to serve parents who are underserved without trying to increase what their out-of-pocket expense is. So we have many providers who take our rates as their rate. So I just kind of want to think about that as we're thinking about quality. You know, we have to be mindful that do we have affordable access for everyone who needs care? Are we reaching the people who need the help? Are the providers able to afford it? Because quality comes at a cost, right? Quality comes at a cost. A Bounty paper towel is better than a dollar store paper towel, right? I mean, I think so. But this is an area that the state needs to provide more money. There is not pending legislation for this, but several of the bigger coalitions, Southwest Florida included, are advocating in Tallahassee for them to allow us to adjust rates while they do the cost of care study. They haven't started the study. They haven't contracted with the provider yet. This is going to cost money. This is going to cost money, right? Because now we're serving more people than we are. In Southwest Florida, I want to share with you, we have the money. Last year, the coalition was given $44 million for school readiness. We de-obligated and gave back $8 million. I need to get out there and find the people. This year, we were allocated by the governor $46 million. I'm forecasting to give back $10 million. Now, I know I need to get out there and find the people, but I have an issue. They have to qualify. There are 2 bills pending right now. I need help, and I need the message to be united. So as we think a little bit about quality, I want to be mindful that quality it's a great goal. And it's something that I have over half my staff dedicated to. But as you're advocating for quality, you need to be mindful that I only serve contracted providers who are members of my coalition. Non-contracted providers, we don't monitor quite the same way. And this, I don't mean to be offensive, doesn't matter if I can't get the kids in the seats. So not to be all doom and gloom, but this is a very important legislative last session coming up. And we expect to get some traction on some of the things that we need. I was in an advocacy meeting yesterday where the state has some money to throw at this. It won't be enough, but we need to advocate for every penny we can get. And I need help getting things raised so we can keep the money that's been allocated for our 4-county region in our 4-county region. Because I'll tell you, Broward wants it, Palm Beach wants it, Orange wants it. They have waiting lists. Their coalitions have waiting lists of over 2,000 children. I'm not carrying a wait list. So I don't know if we're taking questions or if we're writing them on the card. I've got a hand, but I know you're watching. I'll get it to you before I leave. I have it on my laptop. I apologize. So, some of the call to action, this is my last slide, is to support us in our legislative advocacy efforts. And I put also over there a one-pager of what the Association of Early Learning Coalitions, that's all 30 coalitions around the state, have adopted as our advocacy platform. I use advocacy with intent. We do not lobby. Philanthropic support. I talked a little bit about Lee County's school readiness match funding. Employers can do that as well. Influence, our local influencers, our state representatives, our senators. And if you are working with companies or you have your own company, review and develop internal policies that support families. So that is what I have. Did I meet my time frame? I was talking really fast.
I don't know everybody's name, so forgive me if I point. Judy, go ahead. I got a little bit involved with some of this and certainly knowing what the Early Learning Coalition does.
And what struck me is so foundational for everything is that it is not part of the general fund of information that parents need to teach their kids young and ditch their phones. Everybody should know this. This shouldn't be a matter of the Early Learning Coalition. And once it becomes a general fund of knowledge, you have a kid, you need to talk to them, you need interplay. Who cares who gives that to them? But that needs to be advertised basically. And I think one of the real downfalls is that the school system does not play a major role in educating parents about infancy. Most kids have younger brothers and sisters. If the school went out there loud and clear, start dealing with the infant child, you would capture some more kids.
Well, I think, I know the next presentation is going to address some of this because I've been working very closely with the Lee County School District and the Deputy Superintendent on several initiatives. One of them is outreach so that we can start reaching younger children. So we've been, I think I've been here 8 months, and I think for the past 7.5, we've been in conversations and formalizing a partnership agreement and doing our first joint outreach event in 2 weeks on the 16th. So I agree with you 100%. And I want to tell you just real quick, if you haven't been to Disney in a while, it's fun to go now because the parents have the kids in the strollers in Disney and they're on their cell phones. I don't know what to say.
Yes. What is the bill that you mentioned? We need a number.
I'll get it for you. It's on my laptop. And so while the next presenter's presenting, I'll pull it and I'll get it for you. I apologize. They just came out this week and I didn't memorize them yet. I've read them. I have them saved, not a numbers person.
Who else has question or comment? I'm a retired librarian, used to do outreach, and at one point we were heavily promoting
Your organization. And I would say the library has some wonderful points in children's lives where they can make a difference and help promote these programs. And I would say get with them and work with them.
We formed an internal work group, and that's one of their ideas that they came up with was to work more closely with the library systems. And so they're organizing their plan to do that. And right now, because I have a little bit of ARPA money left, I mean, I can make some promotional investment in it. And we actually, I mentioned that we had a VPK advertisement campaign over the last year and we increased our enrollment 100%.
Wow.
And so the Division of Early Learning is allowing me to take a significant portion of my current ARPA allocation to expand the VPK advertisement campaign and also do a campaign around school readiness because I don't think people know what the school readiness program is. So I know I've got some outreach challenges and I'm open to all the ideas that come up.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The other thing that really hit me was the chart that showed all the eligibility based on income. I would imagine that the people that are providing this care, the employees at these childcare development centers, whatever we're calling them, would qualify for their children to
They
be
do,
in.
they do, and some of the centers have set up match programs for them to offset their costs. I'll be frank with you, I have a great number of people on my staff who qualify. Yeah, and since you brought that up, I think it's important to also know, part of what I believe has impacted our enrollment rates is, people realize it might be cheaper for me to stay home and take care of my kids than to go to work. Right now, people are leaving work, men more than women, at exponential rates because it's cheaper for one parent to stay home and take care of the kids than to provide daycare, and they're willing to take the hit in their income to do it. And if we're working towards broad-based prosperity, right.
Any other questions? Yeah, where is WIC coming? WIC is the first government organization that meets with.
WIC is not a referring agency for us. You,
Anything I know, they're under tremendous time pressure. That's why I was doing something with this, they go, we just can't incorporate that. But they wouldn't even put a video in the waiting. I mean, somebody needs to put pressure on them because they are the first point of contact for most people who would call.
duly noted. Well, it's month 8 for me, it's month 8.
I just have one question. Do you work with Department of Children and
We
Families,
do,
correct?
yes.
So they do a lot of those referrals with the Early Learning Coalition.
They do. We get referrals from Career Source, other agencies that work with at-risk children.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
We're going to move on now to our second speaker. However, if you have a question, yes. So if you want to come up and set up, if you have, or actually it's, oh, a few minutes. Okay, we're going to take a few minutes to switch over, but during that time, let me just say, I know there might be some of you that as questions were asked, were thinking of more of your own questions, and keep those questions, because after Ms. Nader speaks, we will have questions for her, and we can actually have overall questions that are could be for either speaker. While they're switching over, the other thing that I wanted to say is, did you say that you brought speaking points or
So
the
this is-
legislative priority?
These are the legislative priorities for the Association of Early Learning Coalitions, and on the back, you'll see the chart that was up there about, okay, and I'm going to get those bill numbers for you right now.
Yeah, and I wish we had 150 people here in the room, and the same on Zoom.
I just need 5, nobody can see influencers.
Well, we have some of those kinds of people. I can see that will take this advocacy up and help with this, because I know a little bit of information about early learning, but as I was listening to the presentation, I couldn't help but say, wow, things that I didn't know, and how sad it is that we are actually returning money. I mean, who does that? Okay, and you're set up, and I'm going to introduce our second speaker. Yeah.
So I think there are ways that the league can coordinate and the legislative advocacy and the priorities that were mentioned are also priorities for the state league. So I have copies of the state league legislative priorities as well. So hopefully we can find things of what's happening locally as well as what the state's doing and work together on that. Thank you. And thank you for your presentation as well.
Yes, excellent information, and we're going to have more information now, focusing in just a minute on the school district. And there may be some, I don't know if you have anything repetitive, but it doesn't matter, because all of us who've been teachers, we know you have to hear some of these things. How many times? I don't even remember. I think my seniors, it had to be like 180 days every single day. And then they'd go, what? And anyway, Mrs. Angela Nader is the Director of Early Childhood Learning Services for the School District of Lee County. Mrs. Nader has been a longtime advocate for early childhood education and believes in the importance of providing high-quality learning experiences for students to ensure they are ready when they enter kindergarten. Prior to serving as the Director of Early Childhood Learning Services, Mrs. Nader was a turnaround principal at Edgewood Academy, the principal at Orangewood Elementary in Fort Myers, and at G. Weaver Hips Elementary in Lehigh Acres, and also an assistant principal at Treeline Elementary and at North Fort Myers Academy for the Arts. As a classroom teacher, because you remember, most of us, that's where we start. If we're in the administrative roles, we can hopefully look back and remember the classroom, and I'm sure everybody here does. As a classroom teacher, Angela worked with students in kindergarten through third grade. In addition, she has served on several early childhood initiatives, including Future Makers Early Learning Communications Work Group. She's a member of the district pre-K to 3 work group, which is dedicated to increasing opportunities for enrollment in early learning programs and easing the transition from pre-K to kindergarten for students and their families. Again, let's wait till the end of the presentation to ask questions. Jot down your questions, and we will have questions for Angela. And if we have time, we'll also have just general questions, because I can, there's obviously a meshing of these two topics. So without further ado, Miss Angela Nader.
You rather have this?
It's okay. I got it. Am I on? There. All right. Good morning, everyone. I am very happy to be here this morning to obviously talk to you about a very important topic that will affect all of us. My particular part of the presentation today is just to give you an overview of the programs that what we offer in the school district of Lee County, go over some goals, and then go over some initiatives as well. So with me today, oh, give me 1 second. It's not advancing. There we go. So with me today, I'm very happy to have Dr. Jennifer Cupid-McCoy alongside of me today. She is our Deputy Superintendent. And towards the end, when we talk about our district initiative, she is going to come up and join me and share some of that information with you. So like Melanie, I am fairly new to the role of Director of Early Childhood, just starting back in the middle of October. So I am very happy to share that I have been involved with early childhood for many, many years. So when the opportunity came to be the director of the department, I gladly took that advantage. So I want to talk to you about the different things that our department provides. So we are a department of the School District of Lee County. We provide comprehensive services to children ages birth to 5 and their families, which is important to note. So it's not only the child, but it's their families as well. We focus on school readiness by enhancing social and cognitive development through education, health, nutrition, social emotional development, mental health, disabilities, and social services. So our goal is to build a strong foundation, which is what we've been talking about today, for school readiness, ensuring each child reaches his or her highest potential. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the different staff members that I have on my team in early childhood. So we have a team starting with our family advocates. So we have about 20 family advocates that are in our department, along with social workers, licensed mental health professionals, and full-time school nurses. So really the family advocate's role is from the very beginning with our families. So when a family is in need of childcare, or if they're in need of services, their family advocate is going to be their first point of contact. And what's nice about that is that they can hold their hand as they're completing the application process. Because we know many of the families that we serve, English may not be their first language. They may not be able to read. They may be homeless. They may be in a temporary housing situation. So they really need that extra support to be able to fill out just that application sometimes. So that family advocate is their partner to get them through that initial process. Now, another thing that our family advocates can do as well is provide transportation. So again, if we have a family in need, they need to get that application in, we need to get them, into our offices. We remove all of those barriers to be able to get them in. So we have several vehicles, in my department as well. And those family advocates are able to actually go to the parent and bring them into our offices. On the other hand, too, if there is some support for a pediatrician or a dental appointment, our family advocates are able to take those parents to those appointments. We also help with immunizations. So again, if a family is in need of those immunizations but are not able to get there, we can help that parent, fulfill that obligation. And then once they're in our program, we do have opportunities for parent conferences and things like that. So if they need a ride to come and meet with a teacher, we are happy to help them do that. Now, once they're in our program and we've learned more about some specific needs that our families may have, our family advocates are then able to refer to our social workers. Our social worker role is to connect with other agencies within the community and help that family and child get the support that they need. Sometimes that need might be the licensed mental health professional. It could be to a pediatrician. It's just a variety of things that our social workers have access to be able to connect our parents to what they need. Another important piece of our team is going to be our school nurses. So we do employ three full-time school nurses in the early childhood department. The role of our school nurses is that once students are in our program, we have 45 days to complete an initial health screening. So our nurses do complete those health screenings. So that are things like height, vision, hearing, weight, and things like that. So this is an opportunity in a vision screening. If there are some concerns, then our nurse can help get that family a voucher if glasses is what the students need, or maybe to a pediatrician or to some occupational therapy of those needs. But sometimes that's the first opportunity that information is revealed to the parent. So we're happy to, walk them through that process and how to get them support. So this is some of the programs that we offer in the school district of Lee County. And there, as you can see, there are several of them. And I've also listed our FY24 enrollment, so this current year. So one of the big programs that we have is Head Start. In Head Start, that is going to be for students who are ages 3 to 5. We have 695 students currently in that program, and we have them at Head Start at 14 different sites. So one of those sites is the Early Childhood Center, where my office is, but then we have 13 other elementary schools that also will have a Head Start classroom there. And I think what's important, that's on Michigan. Yes, that's my office. What's important to note on this is that the maximum number of students that we can serve in Head Start based on the grant is 720 students. Now you may say, why don't we have 720 students? Well, the one barrier that we have for filling the grant is the need for teachers. So we can't put another classroom in place until we have secured a certified teacher and then the teaching assistants that go along with them. So we do have wait list. And so as soon as we are able to take on more teachers, then we immediately fill those classrooms. Another program that we have is Early Head Start. So Early Head Start is going to be from birth to 3. 88 students currently, and I'm happy to say that that is the maximum amount that we have in the grant. So that program is currently filled. We do have teachers in place in those classrooms. We have Early Head Start at 9 different sites because we do have them at the Early Childhood Center, and then also 9 different elementary schools also support that program. We also have something called the Community Child Care Partnership Grant. Now, this grant was secured by the school district several years ago, and this is where we can support private providers in the community with reimbursement for childcare. We also are able, through the grant, to provide furniture, supplies, and again, then the reimbursement to the provider. We currently have 70 students that are supported by the grant. We have 5 different provider sites that are in the grant currently. We are able to go up to 92, which is the max amount for that grant. But again, that's based on the private providers having those students, but it's out there. We just have to fill the seats. And then lastly, we do have some BPK classrooms in the school district. We currently serve 54 students and then 3 classrooms. I will tell you that this is one area where we can definitely look at expanding. We have at least 4 to 5 classrooms right now that we could open if we did have teachers to fill those rooms. So the district supplements the teachers for these rooms because it is a priority for us through other grant funding. It's just we haven't been able to open more classrooms this year because of the need of a teacher. So this next slide is just completions by program. And the reason why I thought this was important to share is because you can really see where we were at before the pandemic and where we're at now. And we're still trying to build back up those numbers. And again, these are completions. So this is not all of our students complete the program, but I think it's important to share. These are the ones that do. And something that stood out to me was the Early Head Start numbers, which again is our infant, our birth to 3. Those numbers have really come back up from the pandemic. So there's definitely full rooms there. But then if you look at the top, there's that Community Child Care Partnership grant that I was speaking of. And then again, the numbers for Head Start at the bottom. So here's some of the outcomes of early learning programs. And I guess I should go back to effective early learning programs. We have some short-term outcomes, and then we also have some long-term outcomes. So the short-term are something we've talked a lot about today, that kindergarten readiness. So 90% of kindergartners are ready for kindergarten when they are able to complete a quality program. 50% less likely to be placed in special education. And that's because we are able to intervene to make the need for special education, the need is not there if we are able to intervene. That doesn't always happen, but it definitely increases the chances. And most important too, is a 34% lower rate of grade retention. So students are less likely to need to repeat a grade if they have a quality early childhood program. Now, some of the long-term outcomes are higher graduation rate. We know a higher graduation rate, impacts our local community. We have more skilled workers. We're able to fill that void in our community. On grade level reading by third grade could reach as high as 80%. Better employment as adults. Again, very, very important, less involvement in the justice system, which is what we all want to see, and more likely to attend a college or trade school. It's not specific to Lee County, it's general information. So as we start to talk about our current district initiatives, that's where I'd like Dr. Jennifer Cupid-McCoy, as our Deputy Superintendent, is going to share some of the things that we have from our district.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Ms. Nader, thank you so much for sharing. What's important to note is that as we talk about early childhood, early literacy, it's important to note that while that's the starting point, if as a community, we want to see economic growth, if as a community, we want to continue to thrive, we have to change our way of thinking from simply what happens at the high school level to what actually happens at the beginning stages. Hence the significance of early literacy. As a school district, we currently have pre-K centers at James Stevens Elementary. There are 12 classrooms there, and Franklin Park Elementary, which is currently in a rebuild phase and will open in August of the 24-25 school year, will have 6 classrooms. In addition to that, we are currently involved in constructing additional classrooms at G. Weaver Hips, and that will give us 20 additional rooms. Even with those numbers, we are still significantly below where we need to be to support the need in the community. If you think about the East Side alone in Lehigh, we can have all of our schools with 20 additional classrooms and would still be at a deficit. Someone in the audience mentioned the need for awareness and the connectivity between the school district and the Early Learning Coalition. I will tell you, I've been here about a year and 3 or 4 months. And Dr. Stefanowicz and I, both of our teams, have a meeting cadence of every 2 weeks where our teams meet, talk about our progress, talk about the initiatives that we're working on, and actually are taking actions, right? So it's not just having conversations, because that's nice, but it doesn't generate results. So there are tangible action steps that we have, very specific to what she needs her outcomes to be and what we need our outcomes to be. We talked a little bit about expanding the community partnership grant. Again, our voices collectively is what's going to help move this venture forward, right? It takes you talking about the needs and here are the resources and directing individual families either to the Early Learning Coalition or to us as the school district. Your voice is just as important in this venture as our collective voices and hers. Last year in the legislative session, there were bills that were signed into law that talked specifically about the need to improve student outcomes with a very different focus on literacy and early learning. As a district, what we've done is looked at our past performances and strategically developed a framework to help us move in a direction where we can see changes in student outcomes. That type of work is transformational. Essentially, what that means is you have to be honest with yourselves about what you've been doing and the results you've been getting. And if it's not working, making the conscious decision to do something different about it. That's what we've now begun to tackle. So it's easy to say, okay, let's instruct students in the science of reading strategies. But have we educated our teachers on what that is? Because we speak it doesn't mean it happens. So we are now providing opportunities for our teachers to engage in that professional learning. For some, it's going to be a very easy transition. For others, it may not be as easy a transition, but it is what we need. Our responsibility as we work with the University of Florida's Lassinger Center, our responsibility as we work with the public consulting group that's also providing training for us is to ensure that our teachers are supported through this journey. We cannot expect them to do their way of work in a different manner without providing the necessary guidance and professional learning to accomplish just that. So why did we revamp our approach? We've had a strategic plan refresh with an emphasis on improving our student outcomes by 2030. Again, I want you to think about it. Just because you say it doesn't mean it happens. So we've looked at what do we need to do differently K through 2. And we said, no, it's not K through 2. It's prior to K through 2. Hence the work with the Early Learning Coalition. We are completely revamping the curriculum resource materials that we use to ensure their alignment with the science of reading. If we truly want to have students reading by grade 3, it is not going to happen in second grade. Just like if we truly want to increase our graduation rate, it is not going to happen in their senior year. We've developed a process that allows us to monitor the work we're doing throughout the year. And again, to be honest with ourselves when it is not working. Because until we're able to do that, look at the data we have in front of us, we're going to continue on the same path. Southwest Florida is an amazing place to live and work. But we as a school system must create the citizens that are needed to work to allow this community to continue to thrive. I believe your battery is low. So I'm going to wrap up with this slide. And this slide talks about, the caption says, the portrait of a school district of Lee County graduate. So what does that mean? As a district, not just our district, I believe this to be a national trend. We continue to do work the way we've always done it. We continue to educate the way we've always done it. And then we're surprised by our results. We are surprised that we do not have students who are ready to go directly into the workforce, or students who may go into trades, or students who are highly prepared to go into the collegiate world. But that's because we've always done things the same way. Part of what this initiative we're working on is we want to capture feedback from the community, because some of you may be business owners, and if you're not directly, you know business owners. We need to know, what are the skills that you want from the graduates we produce so they can effectively contribute to our society, right? So one of the things we'd like to do is have you use this QR code and respond to the questions that's there so that we can try to do something a little different. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Before you step away, I had a question handed to me that was in my mind and perhaps in some of your minds. You did a great job talking about the services in Lee County. Can you give us any of the stats of, what is happening now? For instance, we saw from the DOE site that, what was it, 46.1%, only fewer than half entered kindergarten ready to learn. What's the success rate? Do you have any Lee County specific data?
That 46% is Lee County specific.
Right.
The state itself is at 49%.
Right.
And while the mark changes every year, and Dr. Stefanowicz mentioned this earlier, that still can't be an excuse for us, right? But we are currently at 46%. Once the new numbers are released, I'll be happy to share that with you to see how that increases. Something else we're trying to do as a school district to work on that kindergarten readiness is at, I believe it's 12 or 13 of our schools, we have what's called Young Five. And that is where students get to spend an entire year, because they're on the younger end of the spectrum, going through that kindergarten curriculum before they officially matriculate to kindergarten the following year. And that is a different version of early intervention from a literacy standpoint.
But do you have any statistics? I know this year is the 46, but from prior years, starting the year only half ready, and by the end of the year, what kind of successes
And we also heard what you said about some initiatives that are being instituted right now. Do you have any specific Lee County rates?
From the previous
From the
year,
previous year.
we were also at 46%.
But what, by the time the year was over, what, wasn't there retesting?
Yes. It's one data point.
No, I realize that, and it's probably not going to be a shining star for the district, but you are changing some things, and I love what you said, because as a former teacher, and a lot of you will echo this, I'm sure, I taught English. You can't drag them kicking and screaming to pass their courses. It has to start way back. Middle school's too late. It goes way back, as we've learned, and we need to work on that. So in other words, you don't have any statistics you can share? What? Yeah.
Vision 2030, where do you see the roadblocks? Is it the actual citizenry? Because a lot of us are old. Is it the administration? Is it government? Is it money? And I'm thinking it's probably not money.
It's not money.
Where do you see the roadblocks? Because you have some clarity on this. What's going to be your biggest obstacle? And how does the League of Women Voters help you?
The biggest obstacle is changing adults' mindset. And it's not exclusive to the adults within the school system. It's adults in general. So what's within our scope of control, however, are the adults within the system. And that's work that has already begun. What can you do for us? Honestly, advocacy is what is needed, because as you have the conversation over and over again, and you talk about the need for change, and you talk about the significance of the importance of early literacy, people eventually start to think about what's the impact if we don't accomplish this task.
Okay. Judy, we need to get a couple others. We'll take like 2 more minutes if we can. And then we're going to have to, if you have questions that weren't answered, how do we distribute that, Sandy?
Thanks, Betsy. I'm just going to jump in. If there's any questions that aren't answered, you can provide them to us and we'll get them to the speakers if necessary. We would like to continue this dialogue because you've given us a lot of ideas of what we might be able to do to help and work on this issue. And this is a beginning, so we need to really work together. Well, as long as I've got this, I'll keep going. So I'd like to thank the speakers, and we had a bonus. Thank you, Dr. Cupid-McCoy for jumping in. We appreciate that as well.
There are some more questions. Would you like for us to follow up through email?
Betsy will talk to you right after we adjourn to figure out what best way to do that. We usually end at 11, so we're kind of rushing through this, but we thank you very much. All the speakers gave us a lot of information to think about and things that we can do, because we really need to make a difference in Lee County for this, as well as the state. And more pay for teachers and more pay for teachers. Yeah. I, thank you very much. Earlier in introducing the board, I skipped over Jerry Ware, who is on Zoom, and I apologize, Jerry, I didn't see that you were on there. If you can, in 1 minute or less, and I know you have good practice in this, talk about voter registration. Oh, she's muted. Can you? You're muted.
I think it's on you. I'm trying to
We got
unmute.
you now. Go ahead.
Pardon?
We can hear you.
Okay. Well, I just want to say that I really enjoyed the dialogue about the education because I am involved in that as well. But this morning I need to speak with you about voter registration. With the upcoming 24 election, we've got very, very much work to do. We have already begun that process because on voter registration day, we were able to get into some schools, charter schools, and do some voter education as well as do some voter registrations. And I'd like to thank Amy and Eileen and Nancy and all of those that were helpful in getting that process done. I'm rushing because, believe it or not, today I will be going over to Holiday in the Park at Clementi Park to assist with voter registration education. We are doing this in collaboration with my sorority, Delta Sigma Theta sorority. So I'm saying to all of you, don't forget to ask anybody and everybody, have they requested their mail ballot because that's essential? Are they a registered voter? And if they need for us to come and speak to them on any occasion, and if you have a collective audience, please let us know in advance so if we can see if we can be a voice there. So once again, guys, we got to get busy. We got a lot of work to do. Voter education, voter registration is essential because got a lot of work to do for 2024. I think I did that in less than a minute. I hope, Sandy, because I'm talking very fast.
Thank you, Jerry. So register and vote and participate in this process. I'd like to thank all of you for attending today and for working, for paying attention to this issue and other issues that are important to Lee County. I hope you will work with the league in the future to advocate so that we can make things better in Lee County. And our next event will be on National Popular Vote on January 6th. So thank you very much. We are going to have a board meeting following this meeting, and all members are encouraged to stay if you'd like to. And thank you all for joining us today.